Howdy, guys. A good Friday morning to y'all. This is night 37 of Big Brother All-Stars, and this is Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Now, before we get started, I did just want to point out today is September 11th, 9/11. I was honored last summer inside the Big Brother house to be able to participate in a memorial ceremony remembering 9/11, that tragic day, the attacks on the trade towers and the Pentagon. I wanted to remind everyone, again, this is the 19th anniversary. Time is fleeting. Life is precious. Grab your loved ones, your friends, your family, give them hugs, tell them you love them. If there's someone you know that maybe doesn't have a lot of close people, make sure you reach out to them as well. Let them know they aren't alone. We all came together as a nation that day, and we need to do that again. So just it's my own personal little mention. We won't forget. We will always remember 9/11. All right, guys, let's get into Big Brother. We had our eviction ceremony last night. We had an HOH competition, which is going to change a little bit about what happens in the house. So I'm ready to talk about it. First of all, as a refresher, Bailey and Davon were on the block. Bailey was evicted by a vote of 9-0. Not a big surprise. I think everyone pretty much expected that. They both gave their eviction speeches, fantastic speeches, very, very nice speeches as well. So props to both of them. But Bailey is out of the house. Julie informed all the house guests there will be no pre-jury battle back, so they won't be seeing any of those people anymore, and that who's left is now the members of the jury. So I think most of them liked hearing that. So then we went into the HOH competition. It's a very iconic wall competition. Holding on, they got sprayed with water during the competition. A little bit of a twist in it. The first three off the wall also became have-nots. So some incentive to stay up there a little bit longer, even if you truly didn't want to win HOH. Why wouldn't you want to win it, right? But all right. So it was a little bit of an issue. The feeds were cutting out, and a lot of people were not able to access and watch the competition live, which was unfortunate. Competition lasted, I don't know, an hour and a half or so long, so somewhere right along there. First off the wall, Davon fell very quickly. Now, Enzo's spending the whole night saying she was only up there for 3 minutes. I think it was probably more 10 minutes or so if I'm guessing, but she fell off pretty quick. The next one to go down, David fell at about 45 minutes. They were getting sprayed with water. It looks like David probably lost his grip trying to hold on. So David was off next. Following David was Ian. Now, as soon as Ian fell, that's three people, Davon, David, and Ian, who were the have-nots. So as soon as Ian fell off, Memphis immediately took a dive. He went off. He didn't want to be up there, but he didn't want to be a have-not. So then Memphis was gone. Soon after that, Enzo fell. Enzo's been telling everyone, oh, he could have lasted forever. He just grabbed one. He grabbed too low on one of the grips, and it was just, he got bad info from Cody, or he would have been up there forever. All right, Enzo. So Enzo fell, then Kevin, then Tyler. So now we've got Nicole, Cody, and Danny up there together. Eventually, Nicole falls off, and almost immediately after Nicole goes, Cody follows behind. So our new HOH this week is Danny. Not quite the power break shakeup, the house shakeup I was expecting or wanting, but we'll see what Danny does. They're running out of targets. Before long, they're going to have to seek targets from within these different alliances, whether they want to or not, especially with all these powers that are floating around right now. So let's see what happens this week. Now, a reminder to you, Danny's the HOH. How fortunate is it that she also has the replay power, which allows her to again play in the next HOH competition if she uses her power, which surely she will. So she's going to be able to play in HOH. She won't have to sit out the next competition as well. So some conversations that happened during the evening. A little bit of talking about who may be going on the block, trying to talk some people into who needs to be nominated and such. So we'll cover all of that. First of all, in the storage room, Davon and Christmas are not really talking. They're just dancing. They're dancing. They're celebrating that Danny won HOH. You got to be flexible and adjustable in the Big Brother house. Who would have thought that Davon and Christmas would be celebrating together after last week? But now, enemies one week, friends, kind of, sort of, at least you claim to be, the next week. So they were celebrating in the storage room. Right after that, in the have-not room, Davon and David are talking. David is saying, and David thinks he's probably going to go on the block, and he's saying, look, I'd rather be nominated right off the bat than just get backdoored and not have a chance to compete or anything. Well, of course he's going to say that. David has a disruptor power which can block someone from nominating him. If they nominate him, he can raise his hand and say, I got the power, pull me right back off, pick someone else. So he wants to have the chance to exert that power to stay off the block if at all possible. He is nervous about Memphis talking to Danny, as he should be. Memphis has talked about David being a target for a long time now that Danny's HOH. That's a dangerous duo for David. Davon is saying, look, I'm tight with Danny. I think you're kind of tight with Tyler. I'll work on Danny, make sure hopefully she doesn't put you up. You talk to Tyler, see if he can put in a good word with Danny as well and keep you safe this week, David. So they're working on it. May not help. He's probably going to have to utilize that power anyway, but he does have the power. All right, so in the key room, Memphis and Cody are talking. They're both wondering if Ian threw the competition. Ian talked so much about how well he's going to play. He looked strong up there at one point, and then all of a sudden he's just gone. Ian is definitely a target for these two. Memphis and Cody have continued to bring up Ian's name for a while now. I think if either one of them was HOH, and depending on the influence that they can exert on Danny, Ian could definitely be, if not an initial target, potentially a renom target later on in the week. In the photo room, Cody and Danny are talking. Talk about Ian throwing the comp. At this point, Cody's wondering, did Tyler throw the competition? Danny's saying, I don't think he did. And Cody's saying, maybe. But Danny also mentions this, I thought was interesting. She says she was ready to throw the comp to Cody, but he fell as she was trying to offer it to him. At first I thought, well, no, probably not. But actually, I kind of do buy it. From a strategy standpoint, if Danny felt safe with Cody as HOH, take that for what it's worth, and you may not be quite as safe as she thinks. But if she feels like she's safe with Cody, it makes sense strategy-wise. And just from a purely personal, humanitarian point, he did lose his grandfather, and the idea of letting him get letters and photos from home would be a big deal. So I buy it that's a possibility. Didn't matter. He fell before she had the chance to offer. She is the HOH, and now she's a little bit worried about it also. So in the comic room, Nicole is crying and saying that there's so much missing from the story. What story? We don't know right now, but she's saying it's missing from the story. Later, she is saying that she's not sure exactly what she did, but she takes full responsibility for what occurred. The rumor going around, the speculation is that the diary room pulled her in and may have talked to her about people being upset, viewers being upset with some of her actions as part of the group regarding Ian and his rocking and some of that. So she's very upset, and it continues throughout the evening. Later, Ian comes in and they talk about the competition. They're both agreeing that it could have been worse than having Danny win the HOH. Nicole is saying that she thinks Kevin will be one of the nominations tomorrow or today. I think she's probably right. I think that's very, very likely, an extreme possibility. All right, in the bathroom, Davon and Kevin are talking. Davon is saying, hey, I think Cody and Nick are looking to get you out of this house. If they're going to try to exert their influence on Danny to get you on the block. But she says, but I'm going to try and get Danny to put up Christmas instead. I'm not sure that Davon has as much influence with Danny as Cody and Nicole do, but maybe. But she's going to try it. Kevin warns her, says, be very careful. I think Danny and Christmas are much tighter than you think. And so you really want to be telling Danny to put up someone she's tight with like Christmas. I think he's got a point there. Davon also in this conversation tells Kevin that she now has a final two with Nicole. Really? I don't buy for a second that Davon considers it a true final two, nor do I think Nicole considers it a true final two. But they're playing the game. They're playing it with each other. So there you go. In the photo room, Enzo and Tyler are talking to one another. Tyler thinks he's going up. He's at least he's saying to everyone he thinks he's going up. He tells Davon, Enzo and Tyler. Tyler thinks he's going up. Enzo thinks that Davon should go up. He keeps saying, she was only up there 3 minutes. Yeah, that was disgusting. That's the word he used. She needs to go out the door just because of that. Memphis enters the room, and Enzo is suggesting, hey, Davon went out, then David went out. Really, to be fair, Danny just needs to put those two on the block. She's not going to do it. She's not going to do it, Enzo. I'm just telling you, she's not going to do it. They're all thinking that the double eviction is probably next week. Now, just like my season last year, we spent 4 or 5 weeks every week thinking the next week was double eviction, and you wonder until it finally happens. So there you go. It's not going to be next week. At least Julie didn't tell us it was. All right, in the storage room, Nicole's still a little upset. She's got Davon in there, and Davon is holding her hand, and they're saying prayers to please God help with Nicole with her healing and make her better and all that. Right after that, Danny and Nicole are in the comic room. Danny is saying how much she didn't want to win this HOH. She says people are going to hate her no matter what. She says Kevin's already come up to me and asked if he's good with me, and I had to give him kind of a non-committal answer. So she's getting worried. Nicole does say, well, who is going up? And Danny says, well, there are really only two options, right? Kevin and we couldn't hear the second voice very well, but I think it was David. So Kevin and David very well could be the primary targets here. In the bathroom, Danny and Tyler are talking. Danny tells Tyler, I already know what I'm doing. Tyler says, look, I understand if you nominate me, and I won't be upset, but I don't want to go home. I'm here to play, so please keep that in mind. Feeds are gone, and we missed the HOH room reveal. Why? Let us get our room reveal, CBS, if you aren't going to show on the episodes. But they didn't. But eventually, Danny did get her room. Everyone is up there for a little while. Right after that, in the bathroom, David and Enzo are talking. They're both talking about how much they wanted to keep Bailey, but they just didn't have the numbers. Enzo says, having us do a goodbye message for Bailey. This was the first one this year that really hurt. I hated having to do it. So he's missing Bailey or hating that she's gone. In the HOH room, we start having some conversations, people going up to talk to Danny about her nominations later this morning. So Davon is up there first. Davon's saying, or Danny's telling Davon, it's going to be hard putting up 2 or 3 people, knowing all these powers are out there, and you don't know what. She says, I'm going to have to play assuming there's no powers because you just can't determine. You don't know what's going to happen. The talk turns to Tyler after Davon asks Danny, says, are you close to him? And Danny says, well, he said he was going to clear my name with y'all, and then he didn't. He tried to betray me and all that, so I don't trust him at all. So no, not really. But she also says she's afraid to take a swing at him and miss, and that with the powers out there, it actually may take 2 swings before something happens to him. So it's sounding like Danny's not really ready to take that big power move to try to go after Tyler at this point in time. They start talking about Christmas. Danny is telling Davon that Christmas wants to put their beef behind them, and she says, look, Davon, if you can just, let it go this week, if after that, if you get HOH or, you want to go after Christmas after that, I'm behind you 1,000%, but please this week, just let it go and let's work together. Danny, we talked about Ian potentially throwing a comp. Danny mentions the same thing, that she thinks Ian threw the comp. I think Ian runs a risk of being a renom this week if he's not careful. They're both agreeing that Tyler spent a lot of time with Christmas this week. Davon tells Danny, says, look, Bailey told me that's how Tyler plays the game. He finds someone, he tells him he's all alone, he needs someone to work with, and heck, he did the same thing to me just recently. That's just the way he plays the game. Davon is suggesting that Danny should ask Cody if he wants a repeat of the Derek season. In other words, another strong guy ends up winning the whole thing. Obviously, they want to try to get Cody a little more distance from Tyler through the rest of the game. Finally, they talk about that this house has been run by men for too long. We need to change that. So Davon leaves. Christmas comes in. Danny doesn't really seem to want to talk to Christmas that much, stands by the door and everything. But Christmas basically says, hey, anything you want to do that doesn't have my name on the block, I'm good with. All right, so in the bathroom, Cody's in the shower talking to Davon, saying how well she did with her speech, with her discussion of Black Lives Matter. She says she'd need to practice because she spent so much time talking about social media markets, etc. HOH room, Danny and Nicole are talking. Nicole thinks that Ian might have a power, and that that all the powers may have something to do with HOHs. Not really. In the HOH room, Danny and Cody are talking. Cody's not understanding why Nicole is so protective of Ian and saying Ian's been the worst effect on Nicole's game because he had everyone questioning her game. He is a huge threat. He's got to go. May not be the best time to promote getting Ian out the door to Nicole right now, Cody, but that's what he's thinking and wants to continue to push. Danny is saying that Bailey said 2 people approached her before the eviction wanting to try and flip the vote. She assumes it was Tyler and Enzo. Could be, maybe. And finally, quick conversation, Davon and Kevin in the bathroom. Davon is saying Enzo will be willing to take Danny out, so they want to try to work with Enzo. Kevin is saying that he has good vibes with Danny and wants to talk to her. He needs to be very careful with that. Davon says, I don't know, don't trust her. Enzo comes in, tells him he thinks they are all good this week. We'll see, Enzo. We'll see. Guys, y'all have a great one. SKD 143. See you in 24 hours. Cheers, guys. Remember 9/11.